Thinking of where to go to?
Come on now.
Be on board with Patriotic Radio.
Good evening and welcome to Answers with Dr.Reju, where critical life issues are clarified. My name is Lois and I'm in the studio with Joseph and of course Dr. Reju, the Chief Resource Person of the Center for Transformational Leadership, CTL JOS. You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Lois. Glad to be here.
Good evening, Lois.
Okay. On our last episode, we discussed lessons emerging leaders should learn from the display of leadership in the world as we battle COVID-19. If you missed out on that episode, don't worry. Just visit our website at answerswithdrreju.org to listen to all our previous episodes. Today, we'll be looking at patriotic citizenship even in crisis. Patriotic citizenship even in crisis. Sir, what should responsible citizens do or be doing at this time?
Well, what responsible citizens do? They obey the laws of the land. And, the word being patriotic, it's actually where the name of this whole radio station comes from. Patrice is the word from the word patriot, and is the one who advocate, fight, promote, the interest of his or her nation. So, it doesn't really change. Whatever it is that promote the good of your nation, of your society, that's what responsible citizens do. That's what patriotic citizens do. And at this time, I think everybody will have a common enemy, which is a virus that's afflicting people, afflicting bodies, afflicting minds, afflicting business. And the people we trust to provide leadership, they said we should stay at home. And if you have to go out, wear a mask. So it's patriotic to obey the laws of the land. That's what, but there are sometimes when the laws of the land, right, doesn't really promote the best interest of the country, of the society. So at such a time too, it is patriotic to fight, for a law, that laws that sort of frustrate the progress, the prosperity, the well-being of the society must be resisted with everything. And patriotism is what will make us resist that kind of law. You and I, Joseph, were talking before we came on air, and you said that where you live, it's almost impossible to stay at home. Now, that's a very worrisome kind of situation, because when you make it difficult for citizens to obey a law, that means there's something wrong with that law, right? Yeah. I gave an example once that I'm a very, to a large extent, I'm a very law-abiding person. I like to stop when I'm driving at a zebra crossing, at a pedestrian crossing. But there's sometimes when I want to stop, the person behind me, might kill the person that I'm stopping for. So when a society becomes very toxic lawfully, in terms of law, patriotism becomes difficult. And that is a major symptom of a society that's sick. So that's really, in the midst of the COVID realities, how we need to begin to ask ourselves, because it's just a cruel reminder of how difficult it is to be patriotic.
Yeah. So, there's this saying that crisis reveals who we are.
Mm-hmm.
And as Nigerians, for the past years, we know that Nigerians are passive people.
Mm.
We've not been very proactive as to our responsibility.
Mm.
So in this case that we know, and then there's this lockdown, what strategies should we use? There's a social media that other nations have used, and it triggered a revolution in those nations. But our own, when we go on social media, most times we see that it is either jokes or we're making fun of things. Yeah. So how should we, what strategies should we learn from? What can work now, especially during this lockdown?
That's a good question. I'm going to answer that question first of all by trying to clarify when you say Nigerians are passive people. If you say that before a South African, if you think we are talking about another nation, if you say that, to a British or to an American that Nigerians are passive, you will, what? Nigerians are known to be aggressive people. They are self-starters. They are very industrious. They are not passive. Nigerians are only passive when it comes to patriotism. Right? Because, you see, you can't fall in love with nothing. And that's what we must keep reminding ourselves of. We can't say it enough. It's not just difficult to be patriotic towards Nigeria. It's impossible. Why? There's nothing called Nigeria. That's the point. We can't move forward if we don't address that. Someone really, insulted me on a post that I made about 2 weeks ago, that I tried to make light of COVID and all those kind of things. I said, there is a COVID-19 14. It's more deadly than COVID 2019. There's a virus. I don't think COVID can ever kill Nigerians as much as bad roads have killed Nigerians. I don't think COVID will ever kill more Nigerians than, a trigger-happy policeman, or malaria. So these are the realities. And the reason those things are there is because you can't love nothing. You can't fall in love with nothing. You can't hug air. So there is no Nigeria. That's why it's difficult, or not just difficult, it's impossible. It's impossible. So that's why when we talk patriotism, we will just be very academic. We'll be very academic. So you're saying what kind of, for instance, the reason why it's difficult to use social media, right, to engage is because there's no one language, right? There's no one culture. It was the Arab Spring had a spring because it's monocultural, it's mono-religious. It's because it's very easy to get everybody to understand what we are saying, right? So you want to do like a PSA, public service announcement, right? I got that phrase from Henry. Don't think I'm that smart. You want to do a PSA, you have to first of all think of interpreting in Hausa, interpreting in Yoruba, and saying it in Igbo. You just scratch the surface. Pidgin. Do you know Pidgin has many shades? There are a lot of Pidgins you speak that somebody will not have a clue.
Sure.
There is the hardcore Pidgin that comes from Warri. That somebody that lives in Jos won't even, you will think the person is speaking Greek. So these are the problems that we have. So you see, if we don't, we can't move an inch. That's why, there's a post I wrote this last week that I said one of the problems we have, one of the evil of colonialism is that we're taught to speak grammar. So we interpret everything, and people have all kinds of interpretation. We analyze, and like they say in the academic circle, there's paralysis of analysis. So we analyze so much and we become paralyzed, so there's no action. So you discover that it's impossible to galvanize the people until the power trickles down. That the person, that the community leader in Genta is the one on top of stemming the tide of COVID in Genta. Not one minister, a big man that you can't even call his name. You must first of all put honorable, right? Or His Excellency before you call their names. If that's the guy doesn't know Genta. This is the issue. The man can't serve. He can't serve Angwarugo. He cannot. It's impossible. So we are still playing games. There are patriotic gentans, or is it gentarians you call them? Or gentans. They love their community. They will do anything for peace in that community.
Yeah.
If there is a thief in that community, they will hunt the person down. They don't like COVID. But the strategy can come from Abuja. The person that is the champion of fighting COVID in Genta must not be the Minister of Health or Director General of Center for Disease Control. Do you know that if you look at it down, there is a representative of Center for Disease Control in Genta that is assigned? But nobody even knows the guy. There's a state.
Maybe the guy doesn't even know.
He doesn't even know that that's what he's supposed to do. You see, this is the problem. That's why it's difficult to galvanize, to create that kind of, awareness. Because a lot of people are still living in denial that COVID is not real. Yeah. People still live in denial. So it's, for us in Nigeria, we're just flying blind. They say it's autopilot. Even if it's autopilot plane, it's not flying blind. There is a flight plan.
Yeah.
So the pilot, the thing is set. There is a setting that the plane is. So it's that's why it's difficult. But I won't use the word difficult. It's impossible to be patriotic in Nigeria. It's impossible.
So I want to ask, what is possible?
It becomes possible when, like I said, you can't fall in love with nothing. You fell in love with a guy, right? That you just got married, right? Yeah. It can be. Even if it's his photograph, that's not real. You can't hug a photograph, right? It must be someone that's tangible, that's real. So what's possible is when we have a nation, right, that we can touch, we can interact with, that talks back at us, that feel us and we feel it, right? That's when patriotism is possible. Because what we have right now, people are people first. Then people connect with a place, right? When they connect with that place, they become proud of that place, right? Because that place, they shape it, the place shapes them, so there is a connection. There's a mutual kind of benefit. That's what happens to a British. That's what happens to an American. You right? That's what happens to someone from New Zealand. New Zealand is not just it's not a mirage. It exists. Britain exists. I was there when my sister, who happens to be a British citizen, she turned 70 and she got a letter that you are now a senior citizen. From today, you will no longer pay. No, 65. You will no longer pay for public transportation.
Wow.
Yeah. From today till you die, anywhere you go within this country is free. Why won't you be patriotic to that kind of country, right? I saw a very heartbroken news yesterday where, we'll go on a break, right? People who are living with disabilities, nobody's talking about them in this COVID.
Yeah. Okay, we'll be going on a break right now and we'll be back for more. Stay with us.
Thinking of where to go to?
Come on now.
Be on board with Patriotic Radio.
You're welcome back from that musical break. That was Timi Dakolo. Before we went on the break, we're trying to build up on something, and I think Joseph has a question.
Okay.
That regard.
So you before the break, you talked about people with disability and how we're not nobody is even talking about them, and then when you look at how our society is designed, our roads don't consider them, even buildings, they are not. So how do we start involving these people because they are also citizens of this?
Yeah, the issue we've had is that because of that passive citizenship that you spoke about, our patriotism is misdirected. What the government is supposed to do, private citizens take it over. They take it over. So you discover that it is maybe an NGO, a private kind of organization that takes care of these people, right? They're the ones that are, but everybody now is overwhelmed. I saw that news clip and it's so heartbreaking that there's a woman who's blind, and she's a widow. And they asked her, they said they distributed some rice, and nobody came here. Now, they also interviewed the chairman, or maybe the president, of the National Association of People Living with Disability. Now, it's very easy to reach those people if there is sincerity of purpose, right? Because they have a register. The reason they can, the instance I made about my sister who turned 65 and the rota, there is a database. For example, in Britain, when you turn 100, you get a personal letter from the Queen. Personal one, from the Queen, that you turn 100. Now, that's what generates patriotism, right? There's a man who turned 100 of recent, who fought in the Second World War, right? The man raised over close to like 15 million pounds because he's built a reputation. What was he doing? He was just doing 100-meter walk in her compound. People were donating to help COVID, So you discover that we have allowed the public, the government, politicians, and others to just be cool, and we take their place. We are the ones trying to feed the poor. Those things are supposed to be add-ons. If that's our reality, patriotism, you're only patriotic to that NGO.
Yeah.
Your loyalty is to that NGO, to that, kind of organization. Not people don't get nothing from government. That's so it's impossible to be patriotic, not even difficult. Government is absent.
Sure.
And we keep on going until we say no, not anymore. That's when we begin, to now begin to see how if the government doesn't touch me, right? I don't care if the president is absent. I don't care if my governor, I don't know where he is. The governor travels, he doesn't travel. Nobody cares, right? Nobody cares, right?
Yeah.
Look at the incident that's just happening right now. Nigerians are stranded in China. They have to pay their way back home. 700,000 naira each.
Wow.
Yeah. Every country, responsible country, when there is a case like this, you evacuate your people back home free to them. They have to pay. So, Lois, there is no way to be patriotic. Even if you want to bring in the popular saying of J.F. Kennedy, don't say what your country will do for you. Think of what you will do for your country. It's a symbiotic kind of relationship.
Yeah.
Not parasitic, right? That's why it's difficult in Nigeria to say you want to ask people for tax. What have you given them?
True.
It's as simple as that. Patriotism is impossible.
Okay, so I've noticed that the world has gone, online as a result of COVID-19, and Nigeria has followed suit. I've seen a lot of online platforms where you have seminars, you have live chats, and WhatsApp and all, and I see a lot of people subscribing to it. Some people pay, some are free. How effective is this, and how does it affect us now here? Because what we are dealing with, I feel, is practical. But we get to see these things online. People get to talk about them so much, Sometimes it's like a battle, And is this what we really need now?
First of all, I'll let you know that it's not COVID that pushed the world online. The world has always been online.
Yeah.
Working from home is not new. You see, because we are talking to emerging leaders, I want us to always learn to process information so that we don't give in to sensationalism. Don't be a victim of a hype. Online is not new. I teach for 3 universities abroad and I live in Jos. I teach them online. It's not new. Right? So don't let us say it's because of COVID. It's been here for a very long time. So, because sometimes the media come and it's hype, somebody is benefiting. Don't contribute to, such. People are getting wealthier. Now, the only thing that it has now become more pronounced. And COVID is not permanent. It's already going away. The lockdown is being eased, right? So we are going to get back. And for me, it is how we live post-COVID that's most important. But you see, there's no way human beings can live online. That will kill people more than COVID. Yeah, it will kill people more than COVID. Zoom is not, it's virtual. You know the meaning of virtual? Something that's not real.
Yeah.
That's the meaning. It's not real. It's just a stopgap. So don't let us be victims of information. But having said that, there are benefits in technology. There are benefits in the opportunity for me to be able to serve, like a university across the Atlantic. There are benefits from that. They can learn about Africa, and all those kind of things. What we should be looking at is how can we benefit from COVID? How can we use this to further develop? You see, for those of us who teach online, we are the ones that knows the embarrassment, right? Especially in Africa, where online the light goes off. They are looking, where is Dr.Reju? Where is he? The light has gone off. So you are trying to put on generator, you try to do all those kind of things. You see, this is the opportunity for us to further strengthen our internet or connectivity, telecommunications, all those kind of things. Because there are benefits there. I'm a school proprietor. It's then I know how backward we are in terms of technology. We are trying to take nursery primary school to online school. And parents don't understand it. Parents think it should be free. In fact, one parent called me and said, so who is going to buy me data? I said, so do you want your child's school to buy you data to educate your child? They think it should be free. Right? Yeah. One journalist even said that some private schools are trying to open third term secretly. So I'm now wondering, so he thinks that starting third term online is unlawful. That is how ignorant the media person can be. Right? The school, there's a lockdown. Schools are not open, but education continues.
Yeah.
So I said, the federal government or the state government does not control the academic calendar of a private school. Right? Yeah. The academic calendar of I'm going this way. The academic calendar of a public school is first term, second term, third term, right? Yeah. There are a lot of private schools, they run semester. Right? Yeah. They are not doing anything that's unlawful. So if a school says that he is starting third term, for example, I was telling the parent that in our own school, we start WAEC syllabus in primary 5. Because that's the only way we can finish the syllabus. So you see, these are the kind of things that we've done that when problems come, it should make humans better. COVID should improve our internet connectivity. Right? COVID should improve our health sector. You see, what we've done in COVID, we don't know the downside. They are celebrating this day dome in Abuja that they converted it to, like a hospital. There's an ICU. It's temporary. After COVID, it's no longer a hospital. So we are deceived. It's as if we have improved healthcare. It's an event center. It's going to revert back to event center.
Sure.
Right? This is a time to build hospitals. When COVID came out, everybody in Nigeria, the way we like to talk about what happened in other nations, that China is building a multi-million-dollar hospital in 2 weeks. What have we done? We are setting up tents. We are setting up tents. People do laws. There's a way they actually carry out operation remotely using robots. Yeah. You operate a patient remotely by using robots. That is, the patient is here and the doctor, the surgeon is in Asia, and they operate the person. Look at where we are. So this kind of, when you talk about connectivity, internet, online, they are tools. They are not real, but they are tools in our hands, right? They can't, robot will never replace humans.
Sure.
It can only improve human effectiveness, because it will still take a human that will operate it, right?
Yeah.
So these are the kind of realities. My own pain is that COVID has come, COVID will go. Nigeria, if these are the people in government, Nigeria is going to remain the same. This is a time when the internet, they should just, because they are making tons of money.
True.
They are making a lot of money. What are they using that money for? They should use it to improve on service delivery. We should come out of this and say one of the benefits of COVID is that our internet connectivity became better.
All right.
People are even fighting 5G. So what are you talking about?
Sir, a lot of people, we talked about that in one of the previous episodes, some people donated to the government. And one of them was a bank. And after a week,
they said they were going to lay off.
They lay off.
I don't think they've laid off.
Because the way the news carried it was that they laid off 75%.
No. I happen to know somebody that works in that bank.
Okay.
So they have not laid off anybody. And they are planning for, because you have to know the history of that bank. The bank is like a hybrid, but I'll leave it there. I don't want to, but the truth of the matter is that they have not laid off anybody. They are laying off, staff that are not needed in the current mode of operation. Right?
Okay.
Yeah. It's like I told you, I run a school. In an online setting, there are staff that are not needed.
True.
So you don't want to keep carrying those kind of staff.
Yeah, like janitors and
all those kind of, Why still have them on staff when they are not needed? It's not even good for a human to not be active.
Yeah.
So you sort of follow on those kind of staff, but with some benefits. And that's even like a public, because look at what's happening in other countries. Big organizations are asking the government for money. But here, it is private sector giving the government money. So it's a deal. That's the point I want us to focus on. For a bank to donate $1 billion or billions to a government, it's a deal. It's fraud. It's either there is no exchange of money, it's just public, it's just PR stunt, or some big businessman somewhere giving money to a government that nobody trusts the government. The government has a reputation of misappropriation, of stealing. That's the same government you give money to. Now, the last time they appeared before the legislators too are becoming active because they want a piece of the cake.
Yeah.
They said they are the one they should be giving the money to distribute to their people. I bet you don't know the representative, the person who represents you in House of Reps. I can bet it. Now, the issue is they're even saying that they don't even know how much. They asked the guy how much has been collected. He said he doesn't know. That if he knew that they were going to ask him the question, he will have asked the accountant general. It's a deal. It's fraud. Right? It is fraud because the person putting that donation knows that the money will not get to the real person that needs it.
Okay, sir. So how should the citizens now respond to issues like this and make sure this the people in government and even the private sector, because they have a social corporate responsibility to the people they are serving?
You know, for us as citizens, we have been dribbled to a corner. So when you talk about protest, when you talk about civil disobedience, it's as if you're advocating for violence. But something, I've said it many times on many episodes on this program, Nigerians need to learn the art of protest. Do you know the reason why people rushed out in Lagos and they were not observing this myth called social distancing? It doesn't work because people have to go and fend for themselves. Right?
Yeah.
If the government is taking responsibility for people at this time, there's no reason to rush out. Right?
Yeah.
If there is a stimulus check in everybody's account using our BVN, there's no reason to rush out. Those guys, the reason they rush out is because they had to fend for themselves. One thing I always don't like is when Nigerians abroad send those videos home. Nigerians don't know social distancing. I said, no, you are ignorant. They are choosing between which one is the viral that kills the most, hunger or COVID. Right? And let me stop there. You know, it's because these things are real, guys. Yeah. They'd rather die on the street looking for livelihood, right? Rather than dying at home in fear of COVID. When health people, because the person that really abused me on my post, when I checked the guy's profile, he works for WHO.
Whoa.
Yeah. So I said, okay, now I understand where you're coming from. So I won't even respond to you. You know? Because I am not downplaying COVID. It's real. It's a virus. It's a health concern it's a hydra-headed thing that has economic, social consequences. But we have to be realistic. People get to a point where the natural human instinct for survival will make you, make a decision. Do I want to die of COVID or hunger?
Okay, we're going to go on another short break, and we'll be back for the last phase of the show. Stay with us.
Thinking of where to go to?
Come on now.
Be on board with Patriotic Radio.
You're welcome back. This is still Answers with Dr.Reju, where critical life issues are clarified. Today we've been talking about patriotic citizenship, even in crisis. And during the break, I was asking Dr. Reju a question, and I think I should ask it on air now. I said that we all know that you are not someone who subscribes to giving money to beggars. So what is your opinion on reaching out to those who are in need in this pandemic?
No, they are not beggars. Those who are in need as a result of this pandemic are not beggars, right? They are just victims of a circumstance that's beyond everybody's control. So such people, right, need help. Their needs are obvious. But even then, I saw, a TV, kind of event where they're giving loaves of bread to people. Those loaves of bread will go for a few minutes.
Yeah.
They'll come back. Can you give the loaf of bread? How long does it take a family of 5 to finish a loaf of bread? You see, you have solved no problem by giving handouts. Right? It will never, human beings are not designed to get things free. Right? You are supposed to work, and that's where I have problem with the Nigerian and African variant of Christianity when they talk about money. It's just a bunch of heretics. When they talk about money that you give so that you can get, it's economically faulty, it is not biblical, it is socially ignorant, it doesn't work. But you know what has happened? That people have turned begging, especially, you see, everywhere you see a culture of begging, it goes with poverty. Right? Everywhere. Even in Europe, the major problem they have in a place like the United Kingdom is the culture of benefits, where you don't have a job, the government give you money. So people with fake insanity, right, so that they can get free money. And that is a weight, right, on the government. So when I said it on maybe another radio program that I said, I don't give money to beggars. And I was one who said, so because if I give the beggar money, I've not solved this problem. Is he going to be there tomorrow? And this guy told me details off air, which I'm going to say here, that in Jos there is an association of beggars. They have an executive. He said their president has properties. The president of the Beggars Association. That's what people have used your money for. Most time those who are begging, they are richer than those who give them. You can't have a begging culture. It's inhuman. It's very dehumanizing. Right? So it's not that I hate, because that's not poverty. Poverty is not lack. Poverty is inability to produce. That's why poverty is mental. Wealth is not a lot of money. Wealth is ability to produce, to add value. Nigeria is poor because we have crude and we can't convert it to petrol.
Yeah.
That's why we're poor. So whatever you can add value to, whatever you can, bring from raw to usable, when you lack that ability, you're poor.
True.
You're poor. So Nigeria, that's why you have NAPEP. What's NAPEP?
I think
National Poverty Alleviation. And you don't alleviate poverty, you eradicate it. Because humans are not meant to be poor. The human being is the most prized asset on the face of the earth. Why? There is no other asset that can ever be translated to value without human input.
Yeah.
So these are the kind of things. Any culture, any religion, that's why churches, mosques, all of them promote this kind of prayer. I posted something today. Have you not noticed that societies that don't pray are richer than those who pray?
Sure.
If prayer makes people wealthy, Nigeria will be the wealthiest. Africa will be the wealthiest.
Yeah.
So it's deception. And in that kind of situation, when people do all those kind of things and they come back to themselves, they said, there's no way I can be committed to this country. This country has added nothing to me. That's what makes patriotism impossible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because patriotism is not you being committed to a person. You are committed to a nation. You are committed to a culture. You are committed to, to a way of life. There's something they call the American dream. We don't have a Nigerian dream.
Yeah.
Yeah. There is no Nigerian project. We are not headed anywhere. We don't know whether we are succeeding, whether we are failing. So we live day to day. So in that kind of, if I have my way today, I will lock every church. I'll cancel churches. I'll cancel mosques. Religion is one thing I will prescribe in Nigeria. I'll tell every Nigerian, the religion of this country is our constitution.
Yeah.
Yeah. The God we serve here is our laws. If you don't worship that law, you go to jail.
Yeah.
Just the way the Christians say, if you don't worship God, you go to hell.
Yeah.
So the first thing I would do if I ever have any influence anywhere in this country, first of all, I will create very comfortable prisons. Because people will go there.
A lot of them.
Yeah. The prisons will be very, will be like Sheraton. Because people will go there. Because when you go to prison, you can come out as a PhD holder.
Yes.
We will change it from prison to what is supposed to be correction centers.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. Second one is I will now invest in orientation. And then the most powerful politician in Nigeria will be a local government chairman.
That's what prisons should be. I have a different, feeling about prisons now. It's not what we see it now. It's some place that people should really be in, because it's supposed to change their mindset,
Absolutely,
right?
absolutely.
But it's a place
People
of
come
torture.
out of prison worse.
Yes.
Yeah, so.
Yes, and hardened.
And then they want to go back. They just
Because there's free food.
Yeah.
There's free food.
Yeah. So, sir, talking about begging, you raised that issue, and then we've been talking about social amenities.
Yeah.
In other communities, crime has increased
Mm-hmm.
because of issues like this. I had a story of a woman was cooking. She just went inside to pick something, and the pot
They've carried the pot of soup.
Yeah. And
Funny, but serious.
Yeah.
Right? Serious. Because for someone, you see, when I say this thing, people might think, why are you excusing crime? You see, there was time I had the opportunity of speaking with a former armed robber. And he said, armed robbery is tough. It's a tough job. That is more difficult than working in the civil service. No human being wants to be an armed robber. The risk, the planning, the getting high, right? The amount of Indian hemp you need to consume
so that you can be
so
tough.
that you can be so inspired. So the reality is no human being. See, I study sociology, and I know that no human being wants to steal. It's desperation. It's the survival instinct, right? Survival instinct that now creates fear. And it gets to a point where the person stealing becomes his reality, that this is the only way to survive. The person that steals government money is out of fear of tomorrow. His security is looking for, right? So when you see crime, you discover that the criminal is a victim. And the person that's supposed to prevent crime also is a victim. When you have a policeman, like I said in that my post, that live in a shack with 5 kids, is thinking of how to send the kids to school, right? In the frustration, he gets into alcoholism, and then you give him an AK-47 to go to the roadblock. All of us are victims. You see, crime is the only thing that can stem the tide of crime, that can even eliminate it, is a sense of security. If that person knows that the basics of life, you see, Nigerians need to understand that there are some things that human beings shouldn't think about. What to eat, what to wear, where to live.
Yeah.
When a human being is subjected, dehumanized to think about those things, crime is a natural consequence.
Sure.
My wife was saying, yesterday that there are beautiful houses in Jos. I wish there are no fences. And I reminded her, I said, we went to my sister's house, my younger sister's house in the US. There's no fence. I said, that's even the US. My father's house, where we grew up in our village, we don't have fences.
Yeah, even our houses in those days, there were no fences.
There are no fences.
Yeah.
But it got to a point where we feel insecure because somebody lacks something that is going to look for that I have, and is going to go to any length. The first time my father's car was stolen, it was right in front of the house. That's where we've been parking it for ages. No fence. Maybe the doors are not even locked. And I reminded my wife, I said, do you remember one time I was at home and I wanted to go out? And I didn't know where they put the key to the house. So I waited. My sister got back and I said, I wanted to go out today. And she said, no, you should have just gone. You should have left the door. You don't have to lock the door. Yeah. This is 2 years ago. You don't have to lock the door. You can go out. I said, really? Yeah. You don't have to lock the door.
Okay, so sir,
crime is a natural consequence of people's sense, sometimes false sense of insecurity. What I need, is not given. I have to get it whichever way. Right?
Yeah.
Whichever way. But if you're going to punish the criminal, right, you must let the person know that there's no reason to do that. Right? There's no reason to do that. If you work, you get it. Right? I'm not saying there are no pervs, no criminals. That's the reason why you go to, maybe in developed countries. When somebody commits a crime, their first sign is motive. They begin to look for, is there a mental... Because there's no reason. There's no reason.
And then sometimes some people commit crimes to get back at society.
Because of a perceived injustice.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you raise the issue of poverty, and then I was thinking, considering that a lot of people, some NGOs are helping, giving people. What if these people get used to these handouts, and after post-COVID, they become passive in productivity?
Because that's what it produces, right? And that's why even the NGOs themselves, right?
Yeah.
It's self-help.
Yes.
Some for money, some for fame, some for good followership on Instagram, which translates to money eventually, and all those kind of things. So, you see, the issue is whatever economic program you put in place, right? The first question you must be able to answer is this sustainable? If it is not yes, then it's not going to work. So you can't depend on an NGO that's giving handouts. Handouts will never be a long-term
strategy.
Yeah, it must be productivity. We must be able to produce. If you look at the history of how the economy of this country was plundered, we were basically just exchanging our dollars that we're getting from oil for stuff. We're importing toothpicks, import everything. Right? That killed everything that we ever stood for. We got to a point where we wear used clothes. Yeah. When we had tailors, when we had textile industries before, we are now buying used clothes. It's how low humans can get. There is a guy, I will continue to say it. It will follow him to his grave, that governed this country, right? Between 1985 to maybe 93 or 93. That guy destroyed this country with his cronies. That will follow him to his grave. His name is not being touted. We're talking of Abacha loot. Abacha stole money, but somebody stole our minds. Somebody gave us a culture. That, even if no human being says it, will follow him. In fact, he will die before his death. And I know he's dying.
He's dead.
Okay.
All right, we have come to the end of the program for today. You can visit our website at answerswith.Dr.Reju.org to stream on all our previous episodes. We'll see you next week for another exciting episode. Thank you for listening.
Thinking of where to go to?
Come on now.
Be on board with Patriotic Radio.
Hey.